All right, folks, welcome back to the channel. This is my long overdue follow-up on probably the most controversial camera of 2025, and that is the Sony RX1R 3. Now, I bought this camera near the end of last year, 2025, and I loved using it when Sony let me borrow it for a couple of days before it came out, and I was at Sony Condo and I played around with it there extensively. So I decided to buy it, but it was kind of an unfortunate time. I had way too many cameras going on at that time last year. So I used it for a little bit, took it on a few hikes, and it ended up just going on the shelf. But over the last few months, I've kind of been revisiting my kit. I've been working a lot with Hasselblad on the X2D2 and have really found the sweet spot with that camera for me with the 25mm lens. Now, over the last 4 years, I've been using just 28mm on the Q3, Q2 as my main camera and pretty much only photo camera. And the 25 on the Hasselblad is closer to 21. So it kind of opened up a little bit more for me and gave me a little breath of fresh air in my photography creative process. But because of that, even though I'm an advocate of cropping and you get the same compression, argue all you want, but that's a fact. But at 21mm, you know, we're going to start introducing distortion, particularly with subjects. So I wanted something to pair with it, and the 28 was, you know, just a little too close. And then I remembered about the RX1R 3 just collecting dust. So I picked it up again a couple of weeks ago and decided to dust it off and revisit this camera. But why was this camera so controversial? Well, the biggest thing was its price. Sony priced this at $5,100, which a lot of people were shocked, but not just shocked, but also angry, which was very weird. Bottom line is, it's people's money. They can do whatever they want with that money, and it's not for us to judge. The biggest thing, and I talk about this time and time again, if there's a camera out there that inspires you to go and make photos, you really can't put a price on that camera. Now, one of the main reasons why people were upset about the price is because it didn't have some things that they expected with that price point. It does not have image stabilization. It does not have a flip out screen, which its predecessor had. It was too closely priced to the Leica Q3, which people were drawing a lot of comparisons to, which I understand, but as an avid Q3 user, they are very, very different cameras. But after using this camera again, it reminded me why I fell in love with it at the end of last year. And it all comes down to user experience. And I talk about this all the time in my videos, so I apologize if you've heard this before, but every camera is personal to the photographer using it. And I love having small cameras, particularly when I'm on a project filming. If I can have it just around my shoulder and I don't even know it's there, if I just want to get some behind the scenes photos or actual photos for the client themselves, then something this small is invaluable in my everyday workflow. I want to take a quick moment just to talk about today's video sponsor, which is Storyblocks. As a creator, my workflow isn't just when I'm making photos, it's in the editing process as well. I switched over to Storyblocks a few months ago for one of the main reasons is that the majority of platforms out there are using way too much artificial intelligence. Now, Storyblocks is fully human created music and assets, which is one of the biggest things as a creator, is to have some real human creativity. Now, sometimes when I'm filming, I may not be capturing audio, or the audio ends up being unusable due to wind or other environmental effects. Now, this location is notorious for just a lot of gusts of wind, so my audio was completely unusable. But on Storyblocks, there are a ton of sound effects, so I can just drag in a nice little campfire sound crackle and a little bit of breeze just to tie in the ambience of this scene. And it's not just music or sound effects. We have stock footage, animated backgrounds, templates for whatever editing software that you're using. We've got After Effects, Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve, and Apple Motion, and everything is royalty free. So you can use it for whatever project you're working on, whether it's something personal or it's a commercial project, they have you covered with all of the licensing that you may need. For a limited time, Storyblocks have 15% off their annual plans. So if you're interested in elevating your creative process in the editing room, then check out the link in the description. All right, now let's get back to the Sony RX1R3. It's significantly smaller than the Leica Q3 or even the A7CR, which a lot of people are saying just get that instead and put on a 35mm prime. It's very different, and it is much smaller and compact compared to those comparisons. In fact, I have my Game Boy Advance right here, which is, you know, everyone should know what this is. It's smaller than the Game Boy Advance. Now, obviously, it's deeper because it has a freaking lens on it, but this should just put into perspective how freaking small this camera is. And you really can't put a price on portability and just ease of use. This is a pocketable camera in a way. Now, obviously, I'm not going to walk around with it like this, but if you have a bigger jacket, it's literally pocketable. So let's talk about a couple of things that I've added to my RX1R3 that have just made that user experience a whole lot better. First things first is this small base plate grip that I put on. It's not really a base plate because base plates generally have like an Arca Swiss mount, but that just goes to show how small and compact this is because it's too small to have an Arca Swiss plate on the bottom. This isn't really a camera that I'm going to be putting on a tripod, so that doesn't bother me. But it does have this really nice kind of faux leather grip on the front, which pretty much removes all of the hand fatigue that I would get using this, you know, for an entire day of shooting without a grip. The one thing that I want to get next is a thumb grip, but I don't want to pay Sony's crazy price. Now, I will agree that is a crazy price for that thumb grip, but I haven't quite found a third-party one that has the style that I'm looking for, so I'm still on the lookout of that. For this grip itself, it's by Hogue, or I don't know, Haoge. It's on Amazon. It was like $21. I'll put the link in the description if you are interested. And then I have Alcrown's brass soft shutter release. I love brass, and I think that just small accent just kind of makes this, I don't know, it looks cool, and I'm a big fan of soft shutters. And then obviously I have to have the Polar Pro Short Stash Everyday Filter because I use that on all my cameras, never comes off. All right, so let's talk about obviously another really important thing, and that is image quality. So here are a few photos that I took at the end of last year. And quite frankly, hiking with this camera is just an absolute breeze. As I mentioned before, it's incredibly small, so you just don't know that it's there. If you're going on a relatively long hike with, you know, friends or family, or just a casual evening out and you want to have some high quality memories from that moment, it's the perfect option. These next few photos I took at Sony Condo last year, and these scenes were pretty high dynamic range. We had a light behind these models, and they had like a smoke machine going on. So there was some really nice diffuse light coming through, but they're illuminated from the front, but they're obviously also very backlit as well. And the RX1R3 performed as expected. I'm familiar with this sensor, so I had high expectations, and it delivered. And the character of this 35mm Zeiss lens was really nice. It renders skin tones really well, and just all around the results are stunning. So that's pretty much it. I think it's a fantastic camera, and if you want to get it and you have the money to get it, then just get it and don't care about what anyone else thinks. The user experience is great. It's a camera that I forget that I even have on me, but it's just ready to deliver high quality results. If you have any questions about this that I didn't talk about, you know, this wasn't a very in-depth review. I just wanted to fulfill the promise by giving a follow-up video, as I had mentioned last year. Definitely check out Instagram at Johnny Roams, because I will be, you know, using this a lot more. As I have mentioned, it pairs so well with the Hasselblad with complementary focal lengths. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.